The data is in. Labor Day was the unofficial last weekend of summer vacation, and as the leaves fall and temperature drops, are gasoline prices going to be lower or higher? What does that mean for fall, winter, and our economy? Snuggle up and let's find out right here on UBS Trending. Hi everyone, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm your host, Michelle LaLiberty, filling in for Anthony. Jay Dobson is back from CIO to share about investing in energy after a summer full of travel by planes, trains, and automobiles. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
I'm just going to kick it right off here. Just a few months ago, we had you on and you talked a little bit about gasoline prices for the summer. And as of June, you didn't expect those prices on average to surpass $4 or so. And we're getting pretty close there. So any thoughts on what's next for gasoline prices?
Yeah, gas prices are always on people's minds, so it's a great question, Michelle. Look, at the end of the day, we thought gas prices weren't going to go above $4. They haven't. You're right, we're about $3.80 right now. We're at the tail end of the driving season, so I feel pretty good. We obviously give the caveats of hurricanes and refinery outages, but those caveats aside, I feel good about gasoline prices remaining below $4. You know, your real question, I think, is, okay, looking out a little further, where are they going? And we think really that gasoline prices will be moderating. Again, as you point out, this is on average. So, you know, West Coast is higher. You can see Texas is lower. But by and large, on average, we expect gasoline prices to be moderating. There's really three things to keep in mind. First, demand is moderating. That's sort of the first thing. Second thing, we've got refining margins that will, start to decline, and that'll certainly be helpful. And then the third thing is you've got winter blend, which essentially is a little cheaper for the refineries to produce, and that'll definitely help. One thing that's offsetting it is we've obviously got higher crude oil prices of late. We actually think those will go a little bit higher, but I think refining margins moderating will probably offset that to allow gasoline prices to moderate a bit from here. We'd actually expect them to be in a range of about $3.50 to $4 or so relative to about $3.80 right now. So by and large, we think, a little bit lower. If we pick the midpoint there, that's 15 cents a gallon. Maybe your gas at the price at the pump is $2 less per tankful.
Awesome. Yeah, that's certainly welcome news for the drivers out there. But
yeah.
You did mention, we're just coming out of peak driving season. All those summer road trips are likely behind us at these stages. So I'm starting to think about winter, actually. I know some people heat with electricity, some with propane, oil or natural gas, lots of different heating fuels. I know my own electricity bill last year, I have electric heat here in New York, was not fun to pay all winter. So tell me, is there going to be any relief? Do I need to prepare for those high bills again after a summer of AC, or what can we expect here?
Yeah, no, again, another great question, because this is something everybody deals with. And I'd say the summary is, I expect prices to not be as volatile, so lower than they were last year. But to your point, it's really hard to generalize. We've got natural gas, we've got heating oil, we've got propane, we've got electricity. So natural gas is the easiest one, and actually the one that'll probably be down the most. We can see natural gas prices far lower than they were a year ago. We'll have to think about it, because as we move into the early part of next year, the late part of the winter, we'll lap these comparisons and prices might be up a little bit, but by and large, they're going to be far lower than they were winter of 2022, 2023. Propane will be pretty similar. We should see that lower, but probably won't be as low or decline as much as natural gas did. Heating oil will be the one that probably is pretty comparable for those out there that are using that. That's a lot like diesel for all intents purposes. So that will probably be pretty similar to a year ago. But again, lacking the volatility. And to your point on electricity prices, I think all of us know, so our energy prices are going up. It's that we don't like them volatile. On electricity, look, that tends to be in certain parts of the country pretty stable, other parts of the country very volatile. But I would say since natural gas is a very important input into electricity costs, I would say those will be probably flat-ish, looking forward.
Awesome, and that chart definitely helps put last year's prices into perspective, makes me feel a little bit better. But just to close out the conversation, I just want to get a little specific here. And I know we've got the most preferred on the energy sector, but if you had to choose a sub-industry or where you see the best opportunity, is it refiners? Is it exploration? Where would you point people in terms of within that sector?
Yeah, it's a question we're hearing from a lot of people right now, Michelle, and it's really right. As you said, UBS's Chief Investment Office has a most preferred view of the U.S. energy sector, sort of the S&P energy sector, but that's comprised of a lot of subsectors. I would say we really like the oil field services. We really like the exploration and production companies. You've got big weights for the U.S. integrated companies, so those are always a bit of a safer bet. And then I would even say sort of the, storage and transportation midstream companies fit in there as well. Refiners have had a really, really good run, so my guess is we probably fade that a little bit. But it reminds me of the sort of issue I always raise. We all buy gasoline, we all buy electricity. Maybe in our portfolio we ought to have some of those securities sort of in there so that we benefit from sometimes the high prices we pay for gasoline and energy across our lives.
Yeah, that's a great point. Hopefully I can make some good picks here and offset that electricity bill this winter, huh? Thank you, Jay. That's really great color, and thanks for joining us on the show here. And thank you all for listening. For more information, visit www.ubs.com/views. UBS Trending is also on social media. Follow us on Instagram at UBS Trending for content that you won't find anywhere else. You can also check out LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for more. As always, if you have any questions about your portfolio, please speak with a UBS financial advisor. Until next time, I'm Michelle LaLiberty, filling in for Anthony. Have a great day, and remember to keep your eyes on what's trending.